Hi everyone, daily.dev episode 23. So we are almost at the end of this year 2022. I'm super excited. Today we have two top class speakers and I'm super happy because we have Adam Argyle. I don't know if I pronounced that well. I'm sorry. Yes, the intro always pumps me so much. And hello. We have also Tomer working at daily.dev. Sorry, we have been 1 minute late. We are so very sorry. And we have also Gill from Slack. So we both use Chrome and Slack in daily.dev to create world famous tools. They don't need really an introduction. So today we have just two speakers, so the presentations will be longer, so we can really take it easy. We can have a very good long Q&A if you want. We can try to answer to all the questions. So just a super fast sound check, and then we can start with the speakers. So how are you, Adam and Steve?
Check. Good. I saw a poo emoji winked at me in that video. And it was like a really high res one. It was kind of glossy. It was like wet. Anyway, that was very cool. Intro blew my mind. Yes, I'm pumped. Hi.
Nice. Steve, how are you? How's it going?
Good. It's a little early, but not too bad. I'm here on the West Coast up in Vancouver.
Hey, same West Coast here. I'm in Seattle.
Oh, nice. It's only 3 hours away driving.
Yeah, seriously. We could go get lunch.
Nice. Perfect. So no, after this, I'll be done for today because it's 5 p.m. So I can't come in time this time.
We're in the future.
In the future, yeah. Nice. Okay, so before we start, just super fast, you can check daily.dev. It's a free tool for developers to stay up to date. We have amazing features coming up this month and upcoming months. So, and we have been doing this for a while. Let's say this is the episode number 23, and today the topic is developer tools. So since also daily.dev is a developer tool, we wanted to make an episode specifically on this. Perfect. So let's go one by one. So let's start with Adam, and then So Steve, I'm gonna kick you. I'm sorry, and then I'll invite you very soon. Okay. Nice. Let me go here. Jonito, hey, how's it going? So Adam. I made some very fast researches. Adam is a developer advocate, Google Chrome CSS developer advocate. I don't know what does it mean, Chrome CSS. Is it right?
Yeah, it just means I have a focus. It's like the web there's a lot of stuff coming out of the web. And so by me focusing on CSS, which is even too much for me to stay on top of, even it's a full-time job. But that is my very specific focus. So that's kind of what that means is I work for Chrome. I do DevRel. And then I specialize in CSS and just making sure that y'all know the new stuff that's coming out, helping new stuff get in, all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay, nice. And you are from Seattle, United States, and I saw that you have an incredible domain, which is nerdy.dev, right?
I do have a very cool domain.
I'm so
yeah, it was a
envious.
gift. And you should be. When it was given to me, I was like, this is awesome. And so, yeah, I've kept it alive. A new site will be landing on it in the next month or so. So get ready for that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so Adam, what is your talk about? And then I'll let you go. I'll share your screen. So
yeah, so
I love the title. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, it's very spicy. Ooh, that you don't know exist. It's like it's completely outside of your.
It's perfect. We're on YouTube. It's very catchy.
Well, the good news is the first tool you haven't heard of before is called a mouse. It's a dev tool. It really. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. It's not about any of these things. It's going to be about UI dev tools inside of a browser, popping one open, inspecting various things, and sort of like debugging your UI or exploring and playing inside of your interface, and just dev tools inside of Chrome that you didn't know exist. So yeah, that's the topic.
Nice, perfect. I also saw that Steve should have solved these technical issues, so my heart stopped beating so fast. And so Adam, good luck. Take your time. We have time today. We are not in a rush, so take all the time you want. And at the end, we will have a Q&A. We have some questions. So yes, good luck. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye. See you soon.
All right, DevTools you didn't know exist. Let's start with the first one, theme switching. This one is very, very common. Oh, here, I'm going to go to view and I'm going to exit full screen because I'm going to be opening up tabs and stuff. So what this is, this theme switcher is the fastest way to toggle between light and dark testing on your site. So let me open up a site that has light and dark. I'm just going to open props.style. I pop open the DevTools. I go to the elements panel. I search for styles. I find this little paint worklet right here, this little paintbrush icon. You push it and change to light. Push it, change to dark. And it's that simple. I don't know how many people, or some people go to their system settings up here, and like change it at their system settings or whatever it is. Some people, you can do, well, here's the other one. There's one more fast one, which is Command-Shift-P. This opens up the command palette of DevTools. And here, actually, I should be able to show my keystrokes here. Keystroke Pro. Let me turn that on so you could kind of see the hotkeys I'm hitting as I hit them. Let's give this a test. Yeah, there's escape, Command-Shift-P. Excellent. So inside of here, you can just say light. You can emulate CSS prefers color scheme light, which is the same thing that this is doing here. See, look, it's even checked prefers color scheme light. So you're simulating it so that the page has no idea that it's changing, but you get to change it there. So that's DevTool number one that you didn't know exists, is this little paintbrush right here, and it is awesome. So enjoy that tip as you go about testing your light and your dark themes, and you can flick that switch nice and easy right there. Item number two is scroll snap. So this is a feature of the web called CSS scroll snap. You can set it on an overflowing scroll container. And what this DevTool does is it lets you see the scroll port. So the scroll port being the actual bounds of the window that you're scrolling inside of, and the snap points, which is each particular item that is snapping inside of that window and where it wants to snap and all sorts of good stuff like that. So let's open up this demo that I got here. So we have this like media scroller. You can see I can scroll with my keyboard. If I scroll with my mouse, look at how they always perfectly snap to this left edge here. Scroll this one, perfectly snaps over here. Scroll this, perfectly snap. We even have full bleed edge to edge snapping. This should look like a UI that you probably open up every night or so. Okay, but let's look at the DevTools here. So I hit Command-Shift-C to bring up the inspect element tool. That serves as a hotkey for this button right here. And when I'm here, I chose my scroll area. And here I can see that it is a grid. So I can turn on the grid tools, which is also awesome. Hopefully that's one that you know about. We're going to go over it a little bit. And then scroll snap. So when I hit this scroll snap badge in the elements panel, just like if I was doing flex or grid, I now over here get to see this overlay. The overlay shows a purple outline around the scroll port. So this is the thing that's actually being scrolled. And then it has some scroll padding on the scroll port. That's what the green is on the edges. And that's what's giving me this alignment area offset from the scroll port. So the scroll port goes all the way edge, but I've created a snap offset. This is the padding. And I've made it line up perfectly with the header here. And then we can see each item has this little half blue dot here. And the half blue dot at the left edge is saying this particular one wants to snap right here on the edge. So look at this. There's the scroll port in purple, and there's the half circle snapping to that. If I scroll some more, we can see our scroll port, and we have an item snapping right to it. I can open up multiples and see all of the scroll snaps and scroll each one of these as well and watch them sort of like we can see where we're snapping. So this is a really cool dev tool for scroll snap. It also has a couple of like exciting features. Like if I zoomed out, well, I don't know if this will work. Let's see. No, zooming out isn't going to do it. I need to resize one of these. Let's go here. We'll grab this UL. We'll say a max inline size is 50 VW. Yes, and then we'll justify self in the center. Oh, I guess we won't. Anyway, what's cool though is you can see overflow. So you can see the scroll port here. Oh, let's just give it a margin left just to like, margin inline. Maybe we'll do it. Auto? No. Margin inline 20 VW. There we go. Oh, that'll be good enough for us to see. You can see the elements that are going outside of the scroll port and by how far. So this can even be kind of a scroll debugging tool as well. So anyway, yes, I love this one though. The nice visual looks great. Being able to see things scrolled and interactively appearing in there is really nice. Let's get rid of our max inline size and our adjustments here. And that's kind of cool. So I'll turn these off just by checking the badge again, just like with grid overlays. And we're done learning about Scroll Snap UI DevTools. Enjoy that one for all of your scroll snapping. This next one is Flexbox and Grid. So visualize the container and the spacing. Now you're probably doing this at least a little bit, but I'm going to give an overview of all of the features just so that we can kind of review together. The first one that you might not be using is the alignment panel, and that's for that classic alignment user experience. Like if you're in Adobe Photoshop, if you're in XD, you highlight multiple items and you say align to the artboard or align to themselves, and they'll, just snaps their alignment. Those buttons and those same icons are available in the browser, and they adapt to writing modes. So if the direction of the writing mode is right to left, all of the icons will flip to match so that end and start and their keywords match the visual icon. It's cool. So all the work has been done for you there. And let's check this out. Okay, so here's example one. We're looking at layout DevTools. So if I pop this open, I can look at the grid here. So what I did is I inspected my element. I found in the elements panel. Let's close JavaScript panel. We're not going to need that today. You can see I found the grid badge. I can inspect it, and when I select it, it turns on the grid overlay. Now, the grid overlay can be customized. So if you come over here to this layout tab, which is next to the styles in your styles side pane, there's some options for grid. It also lists all of the grids where you can make it really easy to turn them on and off. So here's the grid on the body. Here's the grid for each particular section. I could turn all the sections on in one little spot, go give them a little debug. I could turn on all the articles at one point. I also have extended grid lines. See how my grid lines are going beyond just a particular element? I can turn that off right here. So now my grid is kind of isolated to the particular grid layout. It doesn't have any lines or anything that escape there. You can also enable show track sizes. You can see I had it turned off because it's usually not that interesting to me to see the track sizes. But if you have like a custom track size, that can be nice to see. You'll see 1FR, 2FR, stuff like that in here. Show area names is awesome, and show line names is awesome. Let's see, I think we're going to have another demo that's going to go into those a bit more. But you can also customize the color of this too. So we'll pick a nice lime green. And this can be nice if you pop open, like, let's do all those sections again. We'll grab here, they'll all be blue. Then I can even eyedrop this other blue. Here, grab this, eyedrop this. See, maybe you didn't even know the eyedropper existed. I don't know. There you go, grab the eyedropper. And now we have a whole bunch of electric blue grid overlays. And it can make for a nice screenshot. You can send a designer and verify something. I don't know. There's all sorts of cool use cases for it. Okay, so that's a grid one. Let's look at this one. This is a flex layout. So if I click the flex badge here, you can see the layout. The hashed items are usually where like spacing has been distributed. And that could be like a gap, that got distributed, or just alignment here. Is this one's in the center, vertical center. And again, you can sort of like enable these. All of them are down here. So here's all the Flexbox layouts. You can see them all in one spot. I can turn on the other one. I can change the color of this particular overlay. We'll go lime green this time. Oh, it was kind of cool. And it was like a sea foamy color. Maybe? I don't know. That's cool. Anyway, it's really fun. So you can customize this particular overlay in these different scenarios. So it's kind of cool. So yeah, there's nothing else to show on this one. Let's check out demo site 2. Yes, the dialog element. So let's look at like a complex component that's used grid. So first we'll look at this like basic layout here, which is just, well, I'm going to go back to show extended grid lines. Yes, I like those. Okay, so there's our body grid. Here's our dialog. Now we have 2 dialogs that are hidden, and then we have this flex layout. And the flex layout here is in the center. This body grid is also centering these items. And this looks like this main one is just a flex with a little bit of gap. So we'll turn that one off. And let's initialize our first dialog here. And so we can turn on our grid. And here's our grid, which is really nice. You can see that it's in the center. The extended grid lines like make a lot of sense here. And if we can extend this open and look to see, we have a grid inside of the grid, and we can turn on multiple grids. I'm actually going to turn off the outer one and just look at this inner one for a second here. We can see we have 3 different rows. What looks like the one in the middle is kind of distributed a little bit more. It looks like they're all fit to their content, so none of them are very hard to find, which is totally fine. And see this top layer badge here? We're gonna get to that in a little bit here today. Look, we have more grid overlays we can put in here. So look, we have a grid on the article, a flex footer, a flex header. This article is using grid. Really cool stuff. Can even go in here to this section and get all those turned on. We can turn off the extended lines and they'll all turn off at the same time. So I don't know how much of these grid dev tools that you've dug into, but you can turn on multiples. You can combine them all together, change all their colors together. Super duper fun. And let's see here. This is our last grid. Yeah, turn on that grid. Oh, nothing that exciting in that one. How about this one? Not that exciting. Article. Oh, it looks like my click is stuck. There we go. Nope, not that exciting. Yeah, these ones aren't that great. Cool though. All right, so those are some of the grid overlays. So make sure you find that layout panel. Make sure you're clicking these badges in here. And if you need to enable many at the same time, you can find all your Flexbox and all your grid layout elements right here, which also you can click them. This little icon here will take you to the body. So you can select the element, go back to the styles pane, which is kind of cool. So you can look at all your layouts. Here's an article, select it in the DOM, go to the styles pane and see the styles for that particular item. Super cool stuff. I'm going to close that out. All right, our next, well, look, top layers next. We were just talking about this one. So inspect and visualize elements on top. You may not even know top layer exists yet because you haven't used dialog. But the dialog element, which we were just at this demo, if I pop this open and look inside of here, it's a dialog element. So see, it says dialog here. Now, what's particularly interesting about the dialog element is, okay, so it's built into the browser. It has a feature when you show it that it can appear in what's called the top layer. The top layer is literally above everything else. And the way that you can see that, so like it doesn't matter if this dialog here is in the body. I could put this dialog deep into my HTML, like nested deep into a child. It could be like inside of a button, and you click it and you show that dialog. That dialog appears in the top layer. Now look, you can see the top layer down here. You see this? It's a little hidden. You can hit this button here, this top layer button badge, which will take you right to the top layer. And at which point you can inspect items that are in the top layer. There can be multiple. In fact, I think if we go like, let's see, we showed that one, and then we'll open up DevTools, be like open modal. Oh, I can't see my text. Show modal. Okay, so now we should have two of them in the top layer. Here they are. Right? Okay, kind of interesting. Two elements in the top layer. One is on top of the other one. So they show up in order of when they were invoked. So this concept of a top layer is about to become a space where you're going to spend time, because the dialog element pops things up there. The pop-up element, which is coming out soon, is also going to show up here. So this is also like if you want to hover and show a little pop over and stuff like that, there's a pop-up element that you can put into the top layer that, again, it can exist anywhere inside your DOM, anywhere in your component tree. But when you show it, it shows up on top of everything magically. The browser is keeping a spot for putting things on top of everything else. And this is how you can inspect and debug those things. So these are, again, this is like a dev tool I don't think many people know exists. Is this top layer debugging. You can find the badge and you can find all the items in the top layer right here, inspect them and dive into them, which is kind of cool, especially like things like the backdrop here, right? Like that's nice to know the backdrop is there. It's got that filter that's causing the blur. And here, look, I can even cancel one and cancel another by light dismissing. So cool. So that was the top layer debugging, just the top layer DevTools. Next, we have easing, so you can visualize and modify easing curves. This also works great with the animations panel, where you can visualize and scrub keyframes and transitions. So let's check out some of these features here. So I've gone all the way down here to the easings of open props. Let me set this theme to dark mode. Boom, and then come back down to the easing, just because that matches your theme better. I can see it on StreamYard. It looks a little better. Okay, so here's some easings. This is like regular ease. Now, if we let this play, I'm going to inspect it. Well, I'm going to go back to easing. I'm going to inspect one of these. And I can see right here, this little icon next to my easing type. And it says, open up the editing Bezier tool, and here is the editing Bezier tool. So look at this. I can grab these handles and change them live while it's going. So remember, we're on the first one here. I can make it much more dramatic as it starts. I make it much more dramatic here. Really get a good S curve on there. Oh, it looks like it's using this here instead of that one. So there, now there's our adjustments. Yes. See how much more dramatic it is? It starts, zips across, and then sort of eases then to the end. And that's because here I'm saying have a slow start, like a little slow curve start, or I can say start fast. Start fast and get to the end destination super fast. Look at how fast it pumps there to the end. Kind of cool. So this is the easing editor. There's also some pre-built easing in here. So look, you can click one. There's ease out. You can go down here, ease sign, out quadratic. I really dislike all those quadratic ones, but there's a few built in for you. And then, yeah, as you can see here too, open props, which we're looking at, comes with a bunch of these built in. Let's pause these and go to the squish ones. Yes, squish. These ones are a lot more interesting because they have a little bit of a bounce on them. And if you look at the bounce, so we'll go to ease squish 1. Here's all the squishes. You can see the easing written there, but look at how it shows up in the curve editor. And this is why it bounces, is it actually goes below the line at the beginning. And so it makes it start, it kind of does the opposite of what you would do. So like if I'm going to the right, but I started a little negative in my easing curve, it will go left first and then go right, like a little bit of Disney anticipation. And then you can see as it hits the end, it rests because we overextend beyond the top here and then come back down. So if I adjust these even more, look, I can't even see the handle up here. Yeah, there we go. Check that out. Oh, see, that squish isn't as good. I spent a lot of time making those squishes really nice, and this one looks really dorky. It moves almost like linear in the middle. Anyway, okay, this is the easing editor. I'm not here to teach you easing design or to how to make good easings, but it's really fun. Just look for this little purple badge in here, and you can edit all the easing that you want. Now let's go to, I'm going to hit Command-Shift-P. That's the command palette. Remember, I'm going to go to Animations, Show Animations drawer. There's a few ways to see this. So you can open this up and find animations in here. So it's in this little snowman drop down. I think you can also open it up another way, but I like the Command-Shift-P version. Like if you don't see it down here in this bottom area, use Command-Shift-P, hit Show Animations, and you'll see it here. Okay, so we're waiting for an animation. These are transitions, so I'm going to stop those, which I think transitions should work. Yeah. Look, there we are. Yeah. So there's that animation going back and forth. That is pretty silly to watch, though, isn't it? I like it. Here, let's go down here to animations. And here's where I have some animations. So here's a bloom fade in. We're kind of like blurs as it fades in. We have a bloom fade out, which is kind of cool. Slide out up, slide out down. You can see all these animations being tracked down here. And I can grab the playhead, which is kind of hiding over there. But look, I can slide. I can grab a track head and scrub an animation and just like see it halfway through. I can also see the easing curve attached to it. See the easing curve that's here? Pretty cool. It's gonna kind of accelerate up at first and then slowly taper down. Slide out down. We can scroll up here to see the styles. It's using an animation, and the animation is going to come with that by default. It looks like there's the duration, there's the delay, the slide out down animation. Okay, it's probably just a custom property. Oh yeah, animations always show out show up in a funny spot. Okay, so here's our animation ease 3. It says is being used, and so what we're seeing here is ease 3. Now also see here you can like pause it. So if I hit play, you can replay it by clicking it again. You can also slow it down. Let's find an animation that's happening really fast. Shake Y. So you can see shake down here. It's kind of happening fast. Let's close out, play shake Y. Here's our shake Y, right? Kind of cool. I'll grab the track head. Can shake it, but I can also set it to 10% animation and then ask it to go again. And look at it go in super duper slow-mo. I use that one all the time for debugging an animation because it'll be going really fast for me, and so I'll slow it down and watch it as it does something complex. Actually, I think there's one at the top we could watch here. It's really fun. This sun and moon, because when we change it, Yeah, here, do you see it? Hey, it looks like the dots here aren't circular anymore. I might have to go change that. It looks like a regression. But here, I'll push it again. As it turns into a moon. Click it again. I don't know why I'm adding sound effects. I guess I'm just a little kid like that. All right, I'm going to zoom back out. All right, so that's some basics in the animation panel. Here's that animation, though. Look at this. Look at how complex that little animation was. We can scrub it back and forth, though. See that there was a change in box shadow. There's a transform. There's opacity. Look, the sunbeams are getting rotated and faded out. The circle sun is being transformed. There's a box shadow that's being transformed. It's all pretty cool stuff, and I love being able to scrub the animations. Cool. I bet some of y'all didn't know that existed. Cool. Next, let's look at angles. Okay, so anytime you're working with an angle, this can be color, transforms, etc. You can adjust those rotations like a clock. So maybe you can't think about 90 or 180 very good. Maybe you're just dealing with rotations that are really big. Maybe you're dealing with radians or other types of units that are just hard for you to visualize. Well, DevTools has a tool for you. So this is a site I built called conic .style. It just has a bunch of really nice conic CSS gradients for you to choose from. You just click them and then you can paste them somewhere. See the gradients in the top there? Just grab and go. Plus it has confetti based on the gradient you click, and that's just fun stuff. Okay, in here, let's look at one of these gradients. Let's look at this one. Here we have a gradient with a rotation here. See the degrees? See the little clock icon? If you click this, you get a clock that is actually filled with the gradient that you're using also. So at this point, I can rotate this. And do you see over here on the left? Our gradient is actually changing, and it's kind of revealing the secret of this gradient. So see how the gradient looks really subtle? Has this nice soft little glow in the bottom. Well, that's because I've tucked the corner of it off the viewport, off the little scroll port. And as we rotate it, we can see that. We can also get a different gradient as we come back around this way and bring in more purple. So this one is like much more blue. Now we're bringing in some purple, but we come around to this side and now we have a mostly purple gradient with a little bit of a blue touch. Anyway, this is the, it's not a gradient tool. This is the angle tool. This helps you adjust hue or just adjust rotations in general. I think I could use it for hue. Let's look at, so here, this has a background color. Looks like it's var surface 2. Let's just make it background, HSL 200 degrees, 50%, 50%. Look, it doesn't show up there. I think I have a bug logged for that. I don't remember. So anyway, it works in gradients. It works in transforms. Oh, here, let's just add a transform. This will be fun. I think we could do rotate now. Rotate 0 degrees. Pop this open and rotate it around. Look at that. How fun is that? You could, if this was a class with more, oh crap. Okay, we got to do that. So here, these are all different conic gradients. Each one of these is going to get a new style called rotate, and we'll do 0 degrees. And now we'll watch everything spin. Because that is just fun to do. So gotta love the DevTools. This also works with if you hold shift, it snaps by specific units. So see how it's going just by 15-degree increments. All sorts of cool little interactions in there for you to deal with that. There's a little show, little spin show. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I hit a button. All right, there's enough of that. Okay, that's the angle tool. It helps you rotate things. Well, let's check out the length tool. It helps you adjust your measurements. So we have drag to adjust values just like a design tool. Well, let's see that. Looks like I'm back in the centering tool here. Let's see, do I have, yes. So here's block size. Look at me changing a height of something just by dragging. So in case you missed it, I'm over here in the styles pane looking at a VH unit. There's also Vmax. Again, I can just drag it back and forth and see something change. Super duper cool. If you hold shift, you'll go by bigger increments. This one's adjusting by 10. And if you hold option, you'll do micro adjustments, which kind of get into JavaScript's weird little 0.2 plus 0.1 issue. See how we're getting the really long 0.3? Anyway, this is the length tool, and it allows you to adjust values by dragging on a unit. It also, if you saw here, has a little drop down arrow. So if you're wondering what the VH unit is, or if you're wondering what units you have in general, if you click that, you'll get a pop-up of all the different units that you could adjust to. So you have rems, ems, character units, PT, PC. These are like picas and points, inches, millimeters, centimeters, vmin, vmax, and you can just change these. So now it's using 20 characters. Now it's using, well, I don't want to do 20 inches, 20 centimeters, right? Kind of cool. Let's go to rem, 20 rem. That is the length tool. So the length tool works anywhere where you see, oh, look, here's some grid gaps here. Oh, there's nothing to gap between there. Just if I go, here's a border. Yes, look at us drag the border larger. Do. So cool. It's starting to feel more and more like a design tool. You can change the color here, right? Pop open and get a new color, change the hue, and adjust the size. And it should feel like we're in a design tool, because you pretty much are. Chrome is a phenomenal design tool. Okay, so that's the length tool. That allows you to drag values. You can hold Shift and Alt to make small or big changes as you drag, and the drop down allows you to see the different units you have to choose from. Okay, how are we doing on time? I'm assuming, oh, it looks like I'm at 32 minutes. I could stop now. I don't know where you're at. There's like a couple more things to look at, but you haven't jumped in yet, so I'm just going to keep going. Oh, nice for the time. Show them. Great. Thank you for the chat. I appreciate that. All right, so container queries. You can visualize the container. So hopefully you're aware that container queries are landed in a couple browsers now. This is a way for you to look at a container size instead of the whole viewport size. Really powerful stuff. And how do you debug it? There's got to be some tools, right? So here's a site. Let me zoom in. Boop. We can change the container and see this different card adapter. Let me zoom out a little there. Bigger, more space. We get a landscape. If we get to see all these different adjustments here, and even some of the content changes. You see, like we lost our description. Okay, so now if I hit Command-Shift-C, I inspect and look at this. I see a badge here for container. If I click the container badge, I can see that the container that things are querying. And it just gives you that that visual sense of what are the containers. You can find them all and add this little container overlay. It's not a huge thing, but it is a developer tool I bet you didn't know existed. I would also expect more container type tooling to show up inside of Chrome DevTools. Okay, let's look at layers. So this is you portioning out your cascade. I really love @layer. And here is why. So I made this demo the other day, which is kind of funny. If you look at it, who cares? Who cares how it works? Anyway, look at this. That's just fun to see it spinning. Oh, and we could also slow down this animation. Wait, why am I making so many sounds for different animations? Okay, what are we here for? We're here because, oh yeah, @layer. Okay, so we look in the styles pane. Look at this over here. It says @layer demo. So when you use cascade layers, you can see them in the sides pane or in the styles pane here. You'll see them stacking up next to each other. So if I look at loader, look at here, we have like demo support styles, demo support styles, demo styles, and demo styles. So this is like a good way for you to name the different parts of your styles and how they stack in the styles pane. So it's not just one big dump of styles. You can name things, and it also helps a lot with specificity. But we're talking about DevTools today. So we need to also click this icon here, which is the toggle layers view. So kind of like how we had a layout panel, which shows all the different layouts. This one shows all the different layers. So we have CSS layers are all written here. You can twirl them open and see, which is kind of cool. So we have one layer called demo, which also has a sub layer called support. So if you get into a lot of layers, this visual tool can help you understand what the browser is doing there. I'm going to turn this back to 100%. And I'm also going to change the color on this because it's just fun. Where is the color? Is it not here? It's in the element behind. Oh, background link text. Yeah, red. Nice. Okay, yeah, that's satisfying. Change the hue here. DevTools are fun. Oh, look, I can't grab the color. Now I can. Look at that. Ooh, it's kind of cool watching it change. Oh, are you seeing it get kind of rainbowy as it goes through there? I should make it change color over time, because that is super cool. Okay, whatever. I'm distracted. Sorry. I'm totally a little puppy. Okay, that was at layer tooling. I think we're getting close. Rendering, emulate their user preferences. So let's open up a site that has some adjusted user preferences. Let me zoom in here so you can see. So this is a split button. You can split it out here, get the different actions, pick one. You can also use your keyboard to get inside of here and choose these, which is kind of fun. We like split buttons, but we want to see and test different user preferences. So we're going to go up here to this right arrow button that sort of shows us more DevTools. And you're going to go to rendering here. And I'm going to suggest you can read through these items at the top, but scroll past them, get down into this section here where you can emulate color scheme light. Look at this. We can switch between light and dark. We can also change, we can emulate print media. You can emulate forced colors. Here, check this out. So no emulation. If a site doesn't have a dark mode, you can force one like this. Forced colors active. You can get a sort of, look at this one. This is actually kind of brutal. This needs some attention if it's going to work with forced active. I think it's because it's depending too much on background color. There aren't enough borders. Anyway, I digress again. Then you have this one, which is preferred contrast. So you can emulate a user's preference of contrast. Looks like this demo doesn't really adjust to that. Emulate prefers reduced motion. So you can prefer to reduce motion, emulate it just like you're emulating light. And now look, when I open and close this, we only see a little rotation here, and this crossfades in instead of sliding in. So here again, if I set this to no motion, see how it kind of slid in, but now it doesn't slide in or out when it's in reduced motion. So kind of cool. You can emulate that user preference. You can also emulate preferring reduced data and preferring a color space capability. There's also some other cool ones in here, like, but yeah, rendering is about emulating capabilities of someone's browser or someone's user preferences so that you can test what your site's going to look like in all those different scenarios. Look at the animations panel down here, capturing all of our different recordings. Look at that. Love it. Okay, close out of that. That was the rendering panel. And oh, it looks like we're ending with VisBug. Oh, I forgot about that. So here I can use VisBug on my slide. So VisBug is here. It's a Chrome extension, a Firefox extension, a Safari extension. It gives the browser it's a component that drops on the page that starts to look and feel like a design tool. So here I'm just going to give a small example here. So I launched VisBug, and now look, everywhere I hover, I'm getting these sort of grid lines, because just like in a design tool or Zeppelin, you want to see the bounds, and you can see that the grid lines are extending. You can also select multiples. If I hold shift, I can select another one. And you can also see that if you select an item and go to somewhere else, it will create measurements for you. You can also take multiple measurements. So if I hold shift, it will keep the measurements that were previously made and start making new ones. And it can become really nice. Do I have stuff with more to see than just like some demo links? We'll go somewhere else in a second. So you can also, with VisBug, just double click text to change it. So again, this is like a static website. Like, look, I'm live on a web page. And here I can say VisBug rocks. I'll probably add some emoji in there. Visual debugging made easy. So here I am just kind of editing my thing. So also notice over here, this is our little tool palette. It has all these different tools. We're right now in the text editing tool. You can also adjust a bunch of font styles from here. So if I select this item, I have the text tool chosen here. I can hit shift up. Well, here if I hit, it looks like I'm in text editing still. Font size, because I can see my cursor bouncing around in there. Let's get that. It looks like I'm just like permanently in a text editing tool. So let's go back into here, grab the typography tools and hit up on the keyboard. Oh, it's like frozen. Oh, it's not frozen. I bet you there's like a style in here I can't overwrite. Dang, that blows the demo up. Let's go to netlify.com. Let's launch VisBug. Let's grab this text, go to the typography tool and bump up the font size. Yes. Okay. So here we go. You can see it bumping up the font size. I can pop in here and adjust the line height. There's like different keyboard combos that do all these different adjustments. You can change text colors. Look at this. So I'm changing a live website right now to whatever I want it to be. You can also delete stuff. So it's like, start building for free. Nah, that button was noise. I'm just going to delete that button. I deleted the LI it was a part of too. All sorts of cool stuff in VisBug. So there's a measurement tool, there's an inspect tool. So if you just hover on stuff, it'll tell you information about that particular element, about the styles of it. You can grab the accessibility tool. So what you hover over checks for color contrast. It checks for any inline. Like, look, this one says type button. So it'll find ARIA attributes and stuff like that for you. This is the move tool. It allows you to move things. Like you can sort of drag them into a new position. So again, I'm live on a web page that has no idea I'm doing this. So I can use the keyboard to adjust these things. Or again, you saw me drag it around, which is kind of cool. So that's the move tool. There's a padding tool, which shows you padding. Look, I can hover and show multiple levels of padding here. There's also the margin tool. I might have even had those backwards. We have the Flexbox alignment tool. Oh, we didn't do the align tool in grid. Whatever. There's box shadow tool, a color shift tool. Oh, this is the move tool. Check this one out. Just put something somewhere new. Gotta love that as a designer. And you can resize things. So here I could take this text and make it a little bit wider, move it up here, take this text, make it a little bit less wide, and move it over here. Look at me. I'm just like designing live on a page. It has no idea I'm doing this stuff. Look at this image. It's somewhere in like a mask, and I just destroyed it. Yes. And then as a final thing, it's really, really satisfying to just hold the delete key. So I'm just going to hold the delete key and wipe this page clean. Oh, it looks like I'm at the top there by just deleting nav bars. Oh, I'm stuck somewhere. Fun. 2 little bugs for me to look at. So anyway, those are different debugging tools. Also, oh, look, I destroyed the page unresponsive. That is not a good demo example. Jeez. Okay, we'll exit the page. I don't care. So thanks for listening to me talk about all these different dev tools. We learned about top layer, easing, angles, length, container queries, grid overlays, at layer, rendering, easy ways to switch your themes, a little bit of VisBug, and that is it. There's probably a few more things I could have shared, but we don't have enough time. So thanks for listening.
Hey, Adam, this was really mind-blowing, and now I know why you are called the Chrome CSS developer advocate. Now I have the idea of your title. Maybe I would have loved you to play around with daily.dev, but maybe for the next time. But
I know. I was like, oh, I should have opened up that site and messed with that one.
So, yeah, nice. So I also made a poll, like asking people how many of these did you know. Of course, some people lied. They say like all, just they knew all, of course. But
sure.
Yes. So if you wanted to play around, why? Okay, so first of all, I hope that we don't get a copyright strike for you singing the Superman song. I hope we don't get, because you sound so well that it could have been like we could get a copyright strike.
Oh, that's funny. Thank you. Appreciate that,
so
John.
While you are playing with the daily dev page, maybe we have some questions if you want. Yeah. So I think this was a question about the top layer. If I don't know if you can read it. Will this top layer override? Can you read it? Any maximum amount of Z?
Oh yeah. You could try as much as you want to get in front of that, and you will never ever get in front of the top layer. Maximize Z index, because again, it's like you're trapped. You're in the body of the document. Anything you put in there is in the body of the document. Top layer is not in the body. You can't defeat it. It's literally on another plane of existence. And that also means inside a top layer, you're going to have to manage stacking order of like when it was added to the top layer, as opposed to messing around with Z-index. So it's a Z-index clobberer. It clobbers it and then has its own sort of like layering battles that happen inside of it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We have some more questions. So maybe we have 5 more minutes for questions, and let's get this one by Nick Taylor. Nick, hi. Is VisBug using the content editable attribute to edit things in place?
Yes. So that's pretty much what it does. Is it will add content editable on demand for you to stuff. So you just show up to stuff used by, oh, it's way more than 150K. It's 150 million devs. Oh yeah, nice. Plus, because everybody loves more pluses, not less pluses. But yes, if you go inspect this, all it did was add content editable for you on the fly.
Nice. And now we have to make it real, of course. And yes, we have, I think this is a mix of a compliment and also a question. Thanks for the amazing presentation. It's be awesome to see different copy in the changes tab. Instead of commenting all the lines out, and multi-word autocomplete in the sources tab for CSS.
So let me hide this bug here. Go to here. Let's make some changes. Let's see, title.big. I'll say font weight. Well, let's see, what's a good spot to do this here? Let's just do font weight 900. So it's slightly bigger. They're talking about the changes tab, which is down here. So it's kind of next to animations. And the changes tab will show you, as you can see, what I changed on the page. But that's because I changed to title.big. I changed to selector. Like if I add an inline style, it doesn't track it very good. But since I changed it here, it's all good. And I can say text right. Look at that. It shows up down here. So the question was about exporting these. There's a copy button now that you can hit copy down here, and that'll put it in your clipboard. I think it's a diff. Let's hit the copy button and paste. It was not a diff. Oh, it was. It was old and new. If you can kind of see it up here, we've got like font weight, text align, font weight. So some of it's commented out, and then you have like the new values in there. And then there's also, let's see, does that cover the question? There was another thing here you can do, like if you can right click stuff and say copy value, you can copy the whole, you can copy all declarations, you can copy all CSS changes. Oh, I don't know how good you can see that, but there's totally, if you right click in the styles pane, there's little handy copy things for you. Because I know what most people do is they go like this and they highlight this chunk, and then they're like, in their mind, they're like, how's it going to know? Is it going to come with check marks? Is it going to come along with all this garbage space? And if you're worried about that, just right click and say copy all the changes and go from there. So hopefully that gave you some information about the CSS changes tab.
Nice. So this was basically a live crash course on Chrome CSS DevTools. So thank you.
Kind of, yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much. I don't know if you will give us the permission to use these sounds, to use them somewhere. I don't know if you give the permission, but that would be nice.
Yeah, I'd love to see a website where every animation that plays just used some of the sound bites in there and just sounded all dorky. That would be very fun.
Yeah. Yes, Graham, that also is one of my colleagues in daily.dev, asks for like implementing these in the DevTools. So when you activate them, it's optional, but you can switch on recorded by you, and we can actually listen to this sound while we debug.
Oh yeah, add it to DevTools. This is a good comment. Okay, want to hear my best bad idea that I've had for DevTools? If you know any mechanics that work on cars, they often can hear an issue. Your car will literally drive in and they'll park it and they'll be like, I can hear your alternator is doing a clicky thingy-majig, and it means the majiggy-majig over here needs the thingy. And you're like, wow, how'd you know that? And then they're right? They could hear the engine. So I was like, whoa, what if DevTools emulated sounds for different parts of its engine? And that way, let's say you spun up a web page and you're using the performance tools, and then you can hear that there's issues. You know, it's like, that's like something, and you're like, oh, it's struggling. The main thread is getting choked up. Listen to the main thread. It's struggling. So that's my best bad idea, is that developers could hear the issues happening on web pages by turning on sounds that anyway, dorky.
Nice. Perfect. Okay, Adam. Okay, thank you so much. This has been really informative, funny, very great presentation. Thank you so much. I'm happy that we could give you more time than usual. So yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Nice. So let me invite Steve now, and see you later if you want, Steve. 5 minutes more. Bye. Remove. So let me add Steve. Okay, nice, Steve. So sorry for making you wait, but we have time. You can take your time. We can relax. So Steve is you work at Slack, right? And your presentation is about building functions in Slack, right?
Correct.
Building functions for Slack. Yeah, and you are director of the DevRel engineering team.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so a small introduction of you, and then when you want, we can share your screen. I see very cool things in your background, but you can spot it by yourself in the chat. And yes,
well,
nice.
I originally was going to blur the background. You know, this is the day-to-day office. I wish I had as cool of a setup as Adam. Damn, I just, I love the lights. That was a really good presentation, Adam, by the way. I know, I can't see you right now, but that was amazing. I have not touched Chrome developer tools in a while, and it's just so cool to see how much things advance in such little time. So,
as a DevOps guy, I've been mind blown. For me, it's mind blowing. Like I say, oh, so this is the shiny stuff.
Tough to follow up. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice. Okay.
If you can share my screens, perfect.
This
and then I can
great.
talk a little bit about myself as well. Everybody, I'm here to talk about building simpler, faster ways to build apps on the Slack platform. Slack's actually, do you want me to just dive in or?
Yeah, no, I leave you. I leave you just before. Just want to say that I made a poll asking if you knew all the tools, and 16% said yes. We could have some liars among them, so I don't know if these results are attainable, but this is like the final result. Okay.
Good. Mostly a new audience building on Slack.
Okay, nice. So, and we use Slack at work at daily.dev. So this can be super interesting for us because we are trying to implementing things integrated in Slack. We also have RSS feeds, for example, in daily.dev. I already tried maybe to implement them. So maybe I have also a couple of questions at the end just for me. Okay, bye, Steve, and good luck. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
16% have some familiarity with Slack's platform. That's pretty cool. And I have some bad news for you, though. Today, I'm actually here to talk about the next generation of Slack's platform. So Slack has actually had a platform since the beginning. It's been a big part of Slack. And if you're using Slack, you probably are using some apps already. For me, I use the Google Calendar app. I have an app for Quip. I have an app for Zoom to initiate ad hoc meetings. And there's like a bunch more. I use Donut for doing water cooler chats with colleagues across the company. It's been very useful, especially during the pandemic, where like a majority of people at Slack now have been hired after the pandemic started. So they've never been in an office, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, so today I'm here to talk about the next generation of the platform, something that we've been working on for 2 years. It's currently in open beta. We went open beta back in September, plan to GA sometime early next year. And we're very much looking to collect feedback and kind of learn, what's working, what's not working about the new tools that we've released. Where do I click to change slides? There we go. As it was mentioned, I'm Steve Gill. I'm a director at Developer Relations here at Slack. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn at Steve's Gill. I don't tweet a lot though, so I don't know how entertaining that will be, but feel free to reach out on Twitter. I'm based out in Vancouver on the West Coast. So yes, I'm Canadian. I play ice hockey. I like to go to the mountain in the winters, but I also like warm beaches, which we don't have a lot of here, but that's what traveling is for, now that we're allowed to do that again. So just to kind of introduce this new platform, today, traditionally, when you build a Slack app, it's been a standalone monolithic app. It's like one app. It has a lot of functionality, like the GitHub app as an example. You can subscribe to repos, you can thread responses in, you can set up notifications to be reminded if there's pull request reviews you have to watch, that kind of thing. But everything is contained in that one GitHub app. That has worked pretty solidly up until now, and we don't have any plans of taking away these larger apps as well. But the next generation of the platform is more focused on being modular and composable. So instead of building these large apps, you're building smaller, reusable components that can be composed together in a way that suits your specific need. They're modular, reusable, flexible, and running on serverless architecture now. So our goal with this new platform is helping devs build better apps faster. If you've ever built a Slack app before, you know there's a lot of setup required. There's a lot of context switching of going between like the app config page on our API website to configure your app and set settings, to going back to your code, to setting up staging, to figuring out where you're going to host your app and what's the database. There's a lot of information to know, a lot of docs to read, a lot of examples to follow, but it takes a while to get going. But with this next generation of the platform, we want to unlock the ability for anyone to deploy a function super quick, get going. To do this, we've introduced 2 new tools to help you build your apps really quickly. One is our new Slack CLI. CLI, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a command line interface. This is where you're going to be managing the entire lifecycle of your app. You can develop, you can iterate, you can test, and you can deploy all from your command line. You can create different instances of your app. So you can have one for staging and one for production. It also allows you to do like live editing of your app. And you see those changes immediately in the Slack client, which I'll demo in a little bit here. The second tool that we created is a new SDK. We call it the Dino Slack SDK. For those of you who aren't familiar with Dino, it's a JavaScript web standards-based runtime, very similar to Node.js, but it's more secure by default, which is one of the reasons why we decided to pick it. TypeScript is also supported natively as well. So our SDK is actually a TypeScript SDK. So for anyone who's familiar with TypeScript and enjoys it, hopefully picking up this SDK is a pretty smooth transition. The Dino folks have even blogged about Slack supporting Dino on their blog. So if you Google Dino Slack blog, I'm sure you can find a nice link to that. But I'll be talking a bit more about this. So I'm going to just do a quick overview of some of the concepts, and then I want to dive into the actual live demo and code, because personally I learn a lot better by looking at code and seeing things running than seeing slides. So I'll try to make this part a little quick. If I was just to get started, the first thing I would do is I would grab the CLI, I would log in, and then I would do a Slack create. And this is actually going to go ahead and create my application for me. When I run this command, there's a template picker that shows up, and there's a few different templates I could pick, but it also accepts GitHub URLs. So really any Slack next generation app could be used as a template for you. And we have a GitHub organization where we've been hosting a lot of Slack samples, and we're still creating a bunch internally and just open sourcing them. And I can share that link in a bit as well. One of the big concepts of making this new model of Slack app building work is that we've actually created some new APIs for being able to create, manage, and configure your application. These are the app config APIs. It allows you to like set all the metadata for your app in code now. Previously, if you've ever built a Slack app, this is the part where you'd be going into the UI in your web browser and having to configure your app there. And if you want a different app for staging, you're generally having to like manually clone everything. It's been a bit of a pain to kind of manage. So we were pretty stoked to be able to finally bring all of that metadata, like what permissions your app needs, as an example, into code now. So you can actually do it all from one spot. A part of the things you can include in there are this new concept called workflows. So there's 3 new primitives that we need to talk about when it comes to the next generation of Slack's platform. The first one is workflows. So workflows are like your end-to-end automations. They're essentially composed of little steps or functions, and you stitch them together in a way that makes sense for you and what use case you're trying to solve. An example of a workflow could be a daily stand-up. And that workflow could do a few different things. It could decide which channel it needs to be run in. It can maybe update the channel topic or post a message in the channel itself asking for people to update their statuses in thread. And then maybe it could take the results of everyone's responses and share them into a spreadsheet or something, depending on how you want to track it. So workflows are a way to stitch these little functions together. Speaking of functions, so functions are actually the heart and soul of the next generation of this platform. They're reusable components, so that means if you create a function, it doesn't necessarily have to be just used in your workflow. Maybe others can use it in their own workflows in their own custom way. So we like to call them building blocks. They're the foundation of the Slack's next generation of the platform. They can be reused across multiple solutions, and because they're so modular, they're actually a lot easier to update as well. We're specifically talking about custom functions here, but out of the box, there's a few different types of functions. Slack also has some built-in functions now that you can use when you're composing your workflows as well as you having the ability to create your custom functions if a function doesn't exist. And then there would also be other functions that other people at your company have created or apps that you have installed that have functions associated with them that you could use when you're composing your workflows. Functions generally have two parts to them. There's a definition part where you define what's the name of the function, what are some of the inputs the function expects, what are some of the outputs a function has, and things like where's the actual execution code of the function live. That's useful for when we're going to be deploying this up to Slack's infrastructure. The input parameters are important, but also the output parameters, because your function could be step 2 or 3 or 5 in a workflow. So it generally needs to know it needs to let the workflow know what it expects. And if it doesn't receive those, that would probably error out. But then also it needs to clearly identify what it's going to be outputting, because then a future step could use some of that outputted data to do its own logic on. So the second part of a function definition, or the second part of a function, is the actual execution code. You can see it's just an async function here. It receives the inputs. You could, in this example, it's mostly pseudocode, but I'm just console logging. And then I would do some logic with the inputs, and then I could return the outputs. That's the general gist of how a function is coded, and we're going to look at a real one pretty quick here. And then the last primitive I wanted to talk about was triggers. So I have a workflow. It's composed of functions, a few different little steps. They're all attached together. How do I actually run this function, this workflow? And that's where triggers come in. So you could create a trigger. And in this example, you're seeing that there's a link. So this is called a link trigger. And you could share that link trigger around, and anyone can actually click run workflow and run it anywhere. So you could pin these link triggers in your bookmark bars. You can DM them to people. But that's just one type of trigger. There's many different types of triggers. You could have a webhook trigger. You could have a scheduled trigger. You could have triggers that start based on Slack events or third-party events. So there's like a lot of flexibility and power in the way that you actually initialize your workflow. In code, so with the CLI, you would actually create the trigger using the Slack triggers create command. In this example, I'm pointing to a trigger definition file that I have in my app, but you could also point to a workflow as well. And you just say what type it is, and you give it a name and what workflow it's going to trigger, that kind of thing. And if there's any inputs that you want to pass into the workflow as well. And then the last thing you would do is just Slack deploy. And this is, for someone who's been building Slack apps for years and years, this is huge. We found that a lot of people would get stung up on where they should deploy. Slack does attract a lot of people building apps who maybe have never built apps or don't have a lot of time to manage their app after they build it. They just want to get something solved quickly for their use case and move on. And then we found that when it comes to deployment, it's always been a big barrier to entry. So we're really stoked to finally be able to offer deployment. This is going to deploy to our infrastructure. It runs on the Dino runtime. And part of this, we also provide a data store where you can actually store a bunch of information as well. So instead of spinning up your own database, you can use Slack's data store, which is pretty sweet. Okay, I think I've given enough context. I want to dive in. I hope that's okay. This is always the way that I feel like I learn the best. So I'm in a directory. I'm just going to do the first thing, Slack create. I've already gone ahead and installed the CLI. You can go to api.slack.com/future, and they have instructions on how to install the CLI. I've done that already. I've also already logged into a workspace. So if I actually run Slack login, you can see I'm logged into a few different workspaces. And I can log into another one as well. So any Slack workspace you could actually log into. Some of this functionality right now is behind, does require having a paid plan of Slack. We're working on opening that up to everybody. That's our ideal scenario. We're just dealing with some abuse concerns during beta. So at some point, we're hoping to open this up to everybody on free plans as well. And if you have a free plan and you want to test this out, you can also hit us up and we can get you access on a case-by-case basis. So I'm already logged in. So I'm going to go ahead and type Slack create. Let me know if you can't see this, by the way. I can zoom in more. So here, you can see that right off the bat, there's 3 templates that are available to me. There's a hello world, a scaffold project, which is a little bit more than a hello world, and then a blank project. So if you're someone who's been building a lot of these, you probably want to start with a blank. For this example, I'm going to go with hello world. And you can see at the bottom, it also links to our github.com Slack samples organization. And there's more sample apps and templates available there, and we're constantly adding more. So I'm just going to get the hello world app going. It actually gives me some steps on what to do. So you can see I created a project called Hungry Lion 681. I could have also given it a name as well when I did Slack create. I didn't, so it picked one for me. That's cool. I'm going to go ahead, cd into Hungry Lion. Generally, the next step would be to run Slack run or Slack deploy. I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do, so I can show you the directory structure. I got a functions folder, a manifest.ts, triggers folder, a workflows folder. The first thing I'm going to do is just create a trigger. So this Hello World app already comes with a workflow. It already comes with a function. It comes with a trigger to start that workflow. So I'm going to dive into that trigger code. But before I do, I just want to show the app running in Slack, in my Slack client. So I'm going to go ahead and create a trigger. Triggers create. And I already have a definition file in the triggers directory that comes with it. So when I run that command, it actually asks me which workspace I want to create my trigger on. And I'm using my Steve Gill workspace right now. And there's 2 Steve Gills here. I mean, there's also a Steve Gill too. Let's ignore that for now. I don't know where that one's from. But there's Steve Gill and there's Steve Gill Dev. And the CLI by default has this concept of a dev instance and a prod instance. So we're trying to give you that out of the box because generally you don't want to be testing in your prod workspace or testing on a prod instance of your app if you say you're adding new features that other people might already be using. So you'd want to have a dev instance of it. We try to give you that out of the box. So here, there's actually, both of these are the same workspace. They're both Steve Gill. They have the same ID here. But the dev means that it'll be a dev instance, and the non-dev means it'll be a prod instance. So I'm going to go with the dev instance. That becomes a little bit more clear as you're going. But I just went ahead and created a trigger for me right here, and it gave me a URL. So I'm going to copy that. And now I'm going to go ahead and run this app. So I'm going to use Slack run. Once again, I'm going to go to my dev instance, and you can see it's already got a little app ID there. It's already been installed when I did the triggers create. It got installed. Okay, so it's updating it. Okay, it's installed. So what's happening now is that I've actually created a socket connection to the Slack servers. So any time this app is run in the Slack client, those events are going to be fired right onto my machine over the socket connection. The CLI actually went ahead and installed the app in my workspace. And as I update the app, it'll also reinstall it, which is kind of cool. And it's using those manifest APIs I mentioned earlier to do all of that. So let's go into the client. So I'm in the meetup directory. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully you can see this. I'll zoom in a bit. I'm going to go ahead and paste that. So this is a link trigger, like I mentioned. It's got a little start button. Go ahead and click it. Who do I want to send it to? I'm going to send it to myself in the meetup channel and say, hi, send greeting. Oh, there you go. It says, hello, Stephen Gill. Someone sent the following greeting. Hi. And if I go back to my terminal, you'll see that I received some events. So when that workflow was executed, it was actually running off of my machine, and it ran the function off of my machine. Pretty cool. Now let's actually look at some code. Nope, gotta update VS Code again. Probably won't do that right now. So as I mentioned, the directory structure, you have a functions directory, a triggers directory, a workflows directory. This isn't mandatory. You could organize your code however you want, but this is the way we like to do it as a best practice. And we have a manifest TS file. So the manifest TS file, that's where the metadata of your app is, like the name and the description. You can point to where the icon lives, what workflows are a part of this app, outgoing domain. So this is one of those like built-in security features. If you're going to hit third-party APIs, then you need to add them to outgoing domains so then they have access, just to kind of prevent anyone from being able to export all your data. And then we got an item here for scopes. So these are what permissions does my app need. And then if we look at the workflow, so you can see we have a little defined workflow here. It's got like a callback ID. Once again, it's got a title and a description and what the inputs a workflow expects. In this example, it needs this interactivity input, and it also needs this, to know what channel that the workflow was initiated in. And then with a workflow, you start adding steps. So workflows are composed of steps. In this one, I think we have we have 3 steps, actually. So first, we have a step for collecting input. So when I ran that workflow here, first step was this little input screen. So that's what's going on in this piece of code here. It's asking like who the recipient is, what channel, what's the message to the recipient. This is using a built-in function. So this is actually a function Slack provides you called OpenForm. And you can say what the required properties are. That's great. And you can see I saved that to a variable because that's how I'm going to reference the output of this function. So next, I add another step to my function called greeting function definition. Now, this is one that I've imported in right here. So this is a custom function I'm writing in my functions greeting functions directory right here. And you can see it's got a defined function, which is like the first part of a function, the definition, and then the actual code that's going to run. It takes in the recipient and the message, and it outputs a greeting. And the greeting, all it does is it takes one of these salutations, it adds them to the message, it adds the recipient to that message and said someone sent that message, and then whatever the message was. Very basic. This is just a hello world example. Going back to workflow, so it's going to, as a step 2, it's going to call my custom function, which is going to create a greeting based on that input from the previous step. you can see input form.output. So I'm referencing the inputs from the previous step. And then I have a last step, which is another built-in Slack function called send message. And this one is actually how I post into a channel. So it asks for what channel to post in. It takes that data again from that original input form I had, and then what the message is, and that will be the result of my custom function. So, going back into my custom function, let's just change this. Somebody sent the following greeting, or did they? I'm gonna go ahead and save that. And you can see, since I have my socket connection running, the app was automatically reinstalled. I don't have to go and stop my process, start it again, or reinstall my app. I can just go right back to the client. Go ahead and click run. Let's just throw this all again. Send the greeting. And this time you should see the change I made right there. Someone sent the following greeting, or did they? I don't know. That's the general life cycle of building. And then say I'm done, I'm happy with this app. I'm going to go ahead and stop running it. And this is where I can do Slack deploy. Once again, I can select what workspace. This is going to be a prod instance. Deploys are generally prod. Running locally are the dev instances. So I'm going to go ahead and click Steve Gill. It's going to install my app there. So now it's actually packaging the function app. It's uploading it to Slack's infrastructure, setting up all the routes, creating a brand new instance of the app as well. This app is actually going to have a different app ID than the dev instance, which is how you can differentiate them when you look in the client itself. So I've created a dev instance, but the one thing I haven't done for this dev instance is create a trigger. So I'll have to do that again. Slack trigger, create trigger dev. And I'm going to select my prod instance this time. Got to create a prod instance trigger. There we go. The trigger creation part feels a little clunky still. We're working on improving that right now. But I'm going to go ahead and copy this link. Go back to my client. And one thing you'll notice right away is that this Hungry Lion had a dev beside it. This one didn't. That's one of the ways that we can tell that they're different. We could also change the icons and change the names if we really wanted to. And this time around, when I run it, it's actually going to be running not from my local machine. I don't have any instance running here. It's running off of the deployed instance on Slack's infrastructure. And there you go. That's all you need to know, really, to get going with a Slack app. What are some of the things you could build? I'm just showing a hello world example, but the big power of this new platform is really the ability to add functions from different services that you're using and pull in data and kind of pass data through all these different services. So an example that we use is we have an incident app that we use here at Slack. And so when an incident gets started, it needs to create a channel. It needs to figure out who's on pager duty. So there's a pager duty integration. It needs to go and invite all these people, the relevant people. So there's some user group looking up into the channel. And then there's update tracking that it does as well. Another example of what we use at Slack, we have FTO. So that's how we track. We need a way to track our time off. So we have a workflow where you would go and enter that information in. And when you enter that information in, it saves that to a Google Sheet. So there's a Google Sheet function that we've added as a step. And then once it's saved into a Google Sheet, maybe we want to create a calendar invite. So then there's a function for the Google Calendar app. It exposes a function for creating events. And now we can create that time off request that you just made as a calendar event and actually add it to your calendar for you as well. So the power of this platform is actually quite strong. And, we've noticed nowadays a lot of people are hanging out in Slack more and more ever since the pandemic. It's become kind of the digital headquarters for a lot of companies. And we're also seeing, a lot of people have events coming in, GitHub events, Jira events, build status events, things like that. They always come into Slack. But now we're actually giving you a way to, when those events come in, to trigger additional work as well that you may want to do. So helping you automate your everyday tasks. Go back to my deck here. I know we're almost at time. So just in summary, we got some new tools, the CLI, a new SDK. We also have our Bolt SDKs, which are our first-party SDKs in JavaScript, Python, and Java. And we've been adding slowly support for the next generation of Slack's platform to those SDKs as well. They don't have access to Slack deploy, so we call them remote functions at the moment. You can create functions, they have to be hosted by you at the moment. That's how Bolt apps always worked as well. I mentioned data stores. I didn't show you an example of that, but you have access to Slack's data store infrastructure now. With the new app manifest APIs, make it really easy to manage your app from the CLI, and we provide some robust logging as well. And in summary, the 3 new primitives: functions, which are building blocks that are used in workflows, and triggers are how you initiate or run those workflows. That's pretty much it. You can check out the website, api.slack.com/future. It's really easy to get started. Please give it a try. Let us know what you think. We are an open beta, so there's still some kinks we're working through, but for the most part, it's working pretty well. But feedback is pretty huge at this moment in our development journey. And that's it. I can take some questions.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you so much, Steve. It has been a really great presentation, and we already have a couple of questions, but of course, feel free to drop all your questions now. So I saved already a couple of them. If you have, we should close in 5-10 minutes, but let's go. So the first one is that, I don't know if this is still relevant. I take it that, do you require a workspace admin to install the app?
Yeah, great question. It depends on your workspace settings. So certain workspaces have approved by admin enabled. So AAA is the acronym we use. And in those scenarios, the admin, even with the existing Slack platform, anytime you install an app, an admin has to click approve. With the next generation of the platform, we've actually streamlined it for admins to give some blanket approvals based on certain settings. Like if you're only using certain permissions, they can kind of blanket approve you. We're really trying to work with admins to make it easier for devs to just be able to deploy and do what they need to do without going through a bunch of approval process. But the reality is there's a lot of sensitive information in Slack as well. So sometimes they really want to trust the source of where the app is coming from before they approve it. And things like outgoing domains helps a lot with the approval process, because you can actually see what endpoints this app is going to hit. So you can actually see if they're going to maybe try to export some data to some third-party site. And an admin can use that as a quick way to make a determination if they should approve or deny the app.
Nice. Thank you, Steven. And just 1 or 2 more. So I think this will be super fast. Is this presentation, will this be available somewhere?
Yeah, I can share it. It's on Google Drive. So do you want me to just post it in the chat right now, or?
Okay, if you want, or we can also add this in the description of the video later.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it to you after.
So just check the description link. We will put this just below the talk. Okay. And one last question, which is it possible to work with just plain JavaScript rather than TypeScript, or are you forced to use TypeScript?
It is possible, but right now our documentation and samples are all focused on TypeScript. So Very much TypeScript is like the first class citizen at the moment, but we do plan on supporting other languages. If you use Bolt.js, which is a framework that we've been offering for years, and we've added remote function support there as a beta, and that one is all JavaScript based. So there is possibility to go that route as well, but I know with this system, JavaScript is possible. I've seen prototypes of it. It's just not something we've documented well at the moment.
Nice. But I think that you made the right choice. And if you made the JavaScript, people will ask for like TypeScript, total compatibility, of course.
Oh yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, in this beta period, probably the biggest feedback we've gotten so far is people want Python. So like. It's just people want to work in the language they're familiar with, and
let's see the good part. It seems people with different languages, they want to develop these functions. So you can take the good part of this, so it's okay. And the first question, he said, "Thank you so much, Steven." And yes, thank you. So maybe I can ask something super fast if there is no escaping learning TypeScript. That would be the direction generally. And about functions, and for example in daily dev we use RSS feeds. So they get RSS feeds in different ways. We have bookmarks, also our sources are RSS feeds. So is there are they mentioned somewhere in documentation, or is there like a way how we can, if you have an idea? Otherwise probably we'll just try to
So I believe in Slack you can actually like natively subscribe to RSS feeds. Like that already exists today. So I know that like we have a change log for our API website as an example. Similar,
Nice.
We just like once a month when there's some big changes or releases, we release it to the public. We actually have instructions on how to like grab that RSS feed and add it to your Slack, so you're subscribed to it. And anytime there's new updates, it actually comes directly to me in Slack, which I kind of love because I'm already hanging out in Slack.
Nice.
It's like a message. I can see my favorite publication, has an update, and I can just read it right there instead of going to a different website.
And of course, this is not just for us, but maybe for the people who use daily dev, they can get their RSS feed on their Slack channel. So we can maybe talk about
exactly.
this.
I mean, RSS feed is the easiest way I would think for you, but I mean, for daily dev, we might want to create, some daily dev functions to maybe subscribe, or maybe I don't know,
Nice.
Get notified when the next meetup is. Like, there's more integration, deeper integration.
Nice. In that case, I'll probably annoy you and send you a message just to annoy you. But it's I see for what I've seen, it seems like a powerful tool. And I also loved the Slack CLI. I didn't know it exists. I don't know for how long it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm excused. Okay. Okay. Nice. No, but honestly, I also make this kind of events so I can also know something. It's not just I'm just hosting these events. It's also for me to stay up to date and understand, because things move so fast that even for me, like inviting you here, like today I really learned a lot, both from Adam and you. So this has been valuable even just for me. So yes. So we're getting closer to the end. If you want to stay just one more minute, let me say something super fast. We already have prepared the event for the next month. That will be on the 20th of December. And it will be about human skills. So at the end of this event, you can already be redirected to the event. So you can already get notified. This will be, of course, free as usual from daily dev. And yes, so with the next one, we will be done for this year for this monthly event that we have been doing for 2 years now. And I've been hosting this for around 1 year, so since January. So I'm super happy. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming and sharing this. You also put some coding stuff. We solved all the technical issues. So super happy. Thank you so much for listening to us and for connecting on this event. And let me share the link of the next event also in the chat. So if you want, you can check it. And yes, that's it. Steve, maybe we will make some collaboration, because I'm interested into something that maybe we can do for this using this function. So I'll play around with this for a while and then I'll let you know. Perfect. So we're gonna close very soon. Thank you so much, Berfo, for joining this event. And yes, we're done. Steve, any final thoughts? Do you want to say something?
Well, thank you for having me. This was great. I hope you all have a chance to check out the Slack CLI and hack around and let us know what you think.
Nice. So thank you. I see Graham here also. Thank you so much, Graham. Great event and talks. Bye, everyone. We are done. Steve, bye. Enjoy your day. And yes, I'm done for today. So that's it. I'm done for today. Bye, everyone. If you want, you can check daily.dev. Totally free. Check it out and let us know what you think about it. Perfect. Cheers. Let's wait 10 seconds. If you want to cheer, you have just few seconds more. Come on, last minute, we will highlight it. And yes, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you. We are done. Perfect. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.